Bosworth. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Nick Smith. I am a representative from Bristol Central. I'm a first-time delegate and a first-time speaker at conference. Thank you. I want to start by telling you a story. I have been working for the NHS as a doctor for the last 5 years. It's been an amazing privilege. And one of the things that has been best about the job is the amazing people that I work with. I want to tell you about one of my colleagues from a couple of years ago, a nurse, we'll call her Sandra. Sandra was in her early 40s. She was a single mum with 2 kids under 10. She had just qualified as a nurse. She'd come to nursing late, so she was not on a high wage. And when I met her in summer 2022, she was just about getting by. She was able to pay a mortgage, she was able to pay her bills. But every month was a struggle, and she was having to do overtime just to support her family. And then the events of September 2022 happened, and we all remember Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's disastrous so-called mini-budget, which blew a black hole in the UK's public finances. For people like Sandra, things got much worse. Inflation and mortgage rates skyrocketed, and I vividly remember one day in October or November 2022 when I went to work and Sandra was in tears because she'd just fallen behind on her mortgage payments and she was going to lose her house. She was going to have to move back in with her parents, and they didn't have enough bedrooms for all of them. She was going to have to sleep on the sofa. And, you know, NHS nurses are tough nuts, and she was in absolute tears about the problem. And this made me angry, and I'm sure many of you, from your experience campaigning up and down the country, have similar experiences of talking to people where economic instability has ruined their lives. Hard-working public sector workers in areas like mine, the NHS, in our schools, in our prisons. So what's the solution? There are many different things that Labour government is doing to improve this, and it's really great to see all the work on workers' rights and everything else. But one of the bedrock of everything we stand for is economic stability. If we ever have a repeat of September 2022, then God knows what will happen to people like Sandra next time round. Therefore, I urge you to support this motion to improve oversight and budget responsibility, both for the government and for auditors, and as part of the bigger picture to help improve lives for British people, to provide that stability, that economic bedrock that is so important for all our public services. Thank you, Conference. I urge you to support this motion. Cheers.
My name is James Davis, CLP delegate from Hinckley and Bosworth in the East Midlands, and this is my first time speaking at Labour Party conference. I'm proud to second this motion on the party's commitment to economic stability and growth. When we won the general election in July, we did so on the promise to end 14 years of Conservative chaos. Voters had had enough of reckless policies, short-term thinking, and a cost of living crisis that left families struggling. The disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget crashed markets, sent mortgage rates spiralling, and made life harder for working people when we were already in the midst of a cost of living crisis. We cannot allow anything like this to ever happen again. That's why supporting the Budget Responsibility Bill is so important. The strong fiscal rules that this provides ensures that we will never have another Liz Truss type figure get hold of our economy again and do whatever they like with it, leaving ordinary British people to pay the price and pick up the pieces. But stability alone is not enough. We must also lay the groundwork for long-term sustainable growth. This motion calls for measures aimed at creating a stable investment environment and the reform of planning and infrastructure in order to boost productivity, create jobs, and ensure that industry can thrive. With this plan, we'll make sure that economic growth reaches every part of the country, not just a select few. Conference, I urge you to support this motion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Delegate. So we'll return to the debates and take speakers from the floor later this afternoon, as we now have to move on to the local government report. So, conference, please join me in welcoming the leader of Manchester City Council, Bev Craig. Thank you, Bev.
Good morning, Conference. Councillor Bev Craig, proud to be the leader of the great City of Manchester and honoured to give my first local government report as the new leader of Labour in local government. And what an incredible year we've had. Building up to our historic victory in July, the last 2 years have seen unprecedented local election success. No area of the country was off limits. From Plymouth last year to Peterborough this year, Redditch to Rushmore, Hartlepool to Hyndburn, we took control of new councils, paving the way for new Labour MPs in these places a few months later. Labour now runs over 140 councils across the country. That means that over 40% of residents across England, Scotland and Wales now live under a Labour council and a Labour government. So I want to take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to every single one of our 6,500 councillors, be you in control or be in opposition. You are the backbone of our party, fighting day in, day out to make residents' lives better and our communities stronger. We couldn't have done what we've done without you, so thank you. Over the last 14 years, local government knows better than anyone that principles without power means absolutely nothing to our residents. It's why we fought so hard to get Keir Starmer and his team elected. Because when we look around the country, we see the damage of the last 14 years. Not just the £24.5 billion that's been axed from local council budgets that have hit our communities hard, but an NHS on its knees, an economy that's flatlined for far too long at unprecedented levels of homelessness and poverty. We will never let them forget what they did to our country. And throughout all of that, Labour councils were a valuable line of defence for our communities, protecting the most vulnerable and fighting to keep our services open. But we were also the testbeds of reform, prevention and innovation for local services that hold the key to our plans for national reform. And driving local economies like mine in Manchester, where we've transformed a declining post-industrial city into one of the fastest economies, growing economies in Europe, shows that local council does a lot more than just empties the bins. There we go, one person, well done. It's no coincidence that Labour councils built twice as many council homes as any other party, or that we invest twice as much in helping residents through the cost of living crisis. Principled and pragmatic, as local leaders, we know our places. We know our strengths, we know our challenges, and we know what we need from a national government to succeed. Now, we know the path to recovery won't be overnight, but we can be optimistic for our towns and our cities, for our country once more. Working hard together to deliver our missions to change our country for the better. And as we heard yesterday from Angela Rayner, our Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, work has already begun. From devolving powers to communities through devolution, that transfers powers to mayors and councils who know our places best. Our track record in local government means that we can be relied on to deliver. From the exciting plans to build a record number of council homes, to ending homelessness, to improving social housing through a modern, decent home standard, there is so much to be excited about. Local councils leading the charge on regeneration, development and local economic plans to boost economic growth, to create jobs and local wealth. And we know that to get the NHS back on track, we need to fix the fundamentals of social care, a system that's been forgotten for all too long. And building a better future for our children and our young people through early help and education is at the core of what many of our councils do. And of course, we saw over the summer, focusing our work on making our communities stronger and safer, from policing to cohesion, has never been more important. Right across the 5 missions of transforming Britain, local government is getting on with delivering. Not just for our party, but for our communities, our residents, our families, those who need us the most. That's why we win. We won't waste this opportunity. Too many people are counting on us. And in local government, we have a new generation of local leaders who are ready to work hand in glove with Keir, Angela, Rachel, the Cabinet and our new Labour government to fight for the better Britain we all deserve. Change begins now, conference. Let's achieve it together.
Thank you, Bev, for that speech. And now we move on to the Metro Mayor's report. And we have Richard Parker with us, who was newly elected to the West Midlands Mayor. Thank you, Richard.
Good morning. What a privilege it is to stand here as the Mayor of the West Midlands. First of all, let me thank all those Labour activists who came out to support me earlier this year. Busloads of campaigners from across the country came to knock doors, call voters and deliver a Labour Mayor for our region. And I couldn't have done it without you. I won by 1,500 votes and there were 1,500 ballot boxes. Just one less vote in each and I wouldn't be here today. That's how important our members and our activists are, and that's the difference you make. Thank you. The West Midlands welcomed me over 40 years ago and I've never left. I am truly grateful for your support in getting me here, and I am now ready for the opportunities that lie ahead. 4 months in post, and what have we been doing? It's a question I get asked a lot, and the answer is a hell of a lot. It's been relentlessly busy, but that's what it should be about, and that's because the region, the West Midlands, is crying out for change. I'm not a man to rush in. The West Midlands knows it has a new mayor, and not just a mayor with new politics, but a mayor with a different style and a different tone. I don't shout or stamp my feet or throw tantrums. And the busiest person in my office isn't my personal photographer. That's not my style. But make no mistake, I'm hugely ambitious for the region. Fearless, not reckless. The West Midlands has the youngest population in Europe. That could give us an incredible advantage. And as a new mayor, I've spent a lot of time with young people across the region. We discuss really important issues like what you want to do with your life. What's your long-term plan? How will you get the skills you need to do the job? And sometimes I get to ask them questions too. But the reality is, whilst we have a vibrant young population eager to develop careers in the West Midlands, we also have a real issue with youth unemployment, which is twice the national average. And a huge portion of the workforce have low skills or no skills. I want more for these young people, and they deserve more. Without tackling these issues head-on, we're storing up problems for the future. I've spoken before about changing the fabric of our society for long-term success. For too long, we've been focused on policy and process, and I'm here to tell you it's time we focused on people and on places. Thank you. I've been talking to businesses across the region, and they're now ready to help me and step up to support me in delivering for our young people. Businesses like Severn Trent Water, Atkins Realis and the Rigby Group have come together to announce almost 3,000 new opportunities for our young people. These are meaningful actions that will change lives for the better, and they will change them for the long term. I've been working hard to get more businesses to offer apprenticeships for our young people, because every single young person in the West Midlands who wants an apprenticeship should be able to have one. That was my pledge in the first 4 months in the job, and I'm already delivering on it. But there is still much to do. People should, when they choose to be able, people should choose and be able to have a place they call home. And for far too long, as we all know, we've not built enough homes. That's why, as Mayor, I'm taking bold steps to invest in affordable and sustainable housing across the West Midlands. We're not just building homes, we're building communities where everyone has a place to call home. And I'll be delivering tens of thousands of affordable and social homes over the next 5 years. Thank you. The West Midlands residents not only need somewhere to call home, they need a job, a career and a purpose in life. Let me tell you about a programme and a project called WorkWise. When people are coming out of unemployment to get a new job or a new opportunity, one of the biggest challenges they face is transport and travel. Because when you've been unemployed, cash flow is a massive issue. WorkWise gives free passes to help new people or people seeking work get to their place of work. And over half the young people who receive these say they wouldn't still be in a job if they didn't have a pass to get to work. If you're a young person starting at college, a new job or an apprenticeship, the challenge of travel is very real. It limits choices, possibilities, and it limits opportunity. That's why I'm determined to expand WorkWise, ensuring that every young person who needs it has the support they need to travel to work or college. Every journey these young people take is a positive step towards opportunity and the hope of a better future. It was the West Midlands that made me. It gave me an opportunity to get on in life, and now I'm going to pay that back. And when the West Midlands works and prospers, the country prospers too. As Mayor, I will deliver the skills and jobs that will improve life chances for everyone. I will deliver new homes and communities for everyone, and journeys that ensure that everyone is better connected. But crucially, we're also investing in the economy for everyone too, with a new £5 billion investment zone that will help create 30,000 new jobs. By investing in the region that gave us Noddy Holder, Thomas Shelby, Dairy Milk, the bicycle, and orange chips, we are driving the change we want across the whole of the UK. I'm incredibly optimistic about the future of our region. The West Midlands is not just the heart of the country, it's the beating pulse of the future. A brighter, more prosperous future, and that change begins here today. Thank you, Conference.
Thank you, Richard. So after achieving the highest number of Labour and Cooperative MPs at the last general election, please welcome onto the stage the General Secretary of the Cooperative Party, Joe Fortune.
Thank you, Conference. Thank you, Chair. I'm Joe Fortune. I'm the proud General Secretary of the fiercely proud Cooperative Party. Thank you for giving our party, your sister party, your partner of nearly 100 years, the opportunity to give these greetings today. I'm here not only on behalf of our members, member cooperatives, member trade unions, but the people who make up our cooperative movement. The people who keep your local pub open, keep the credit union going, keep the community centre alive, and ensure your area has a place for local retail, music and sport. Our cooperative movement stewards assets on all of our behalf, not for the narrow few. The Cooperative Party, born from the cooperative movement, represents an important strand of our Labour family's politics, history and future. Conference, the story of our cooperative movement is not an inevitable one. 200 years ago, it was not inevitable that 28 working people in Rochdale who wanted to eat non-contaminated food at a price they could afford would go on to pave the way for a global movement. Our story isn't inevitable. Rather, it's the power of the idea, the robustness of the model, the belief in fairness, the power of collective ownership which allows this story to take place. The cooperative story may have started on that single shop floor in Rochdale, but today it encompasses over 1 billion people. A movement whose largest 300 co-ops turn over in excess of £1.5 trillion. It must be one of the country's most successful ever exports. Not James Bond, Noddy Holder, not Scotch or Premier League, but cooperatives. We delivered a way of doing business which is fairer, more productive and more long-lasting, and exported it around the world. Yet we run the risk of not supporting it here in the UK, not allowing it to reach its full potential. We have strong cooperatives in many sectors of the economy, employing tens of thousands with millions of members that generate billions of pounds. But if co-ops own half of all agricultural land in the US, turning over 50% more than our NHS budget, if co-ops produce most of the milk and sugar in India and own 2/3 of the famed German banking sector, then maybe, just maybe, they're onto something. And maybe we need to take another look at that model here, the one pioneered right here, and make sure we're making the most of it. Friends, in recent times we've seen a financial crisis, a housing crisis, an energy crisis, a pandemic, a summer of riots. After each one, we say, surely there's a cooperative and community answer. Friends, we have one. It already exists. It just needs proper support. Conference, now is the time for us to get ahead of history, permanently shift power into the hands of local people, allow them to own the assets they rely on, build genuine community power, have diverse ownership in the economy so we are better ready to weather the crises of the future. The Cooperative Party is unique in our Labour family. No one does what we do. We take this responsibility seriously. And that's why last year we worked hard to grow our party's members and supporters to record highs, grow the number of our shared elected representatives to over 1,600, relentlessly champion our ideas and campaign right across the country. I want to thank our candidates, members, cooperatives, NEC and of course our party chair Jim McMahon and Parliamentary Group Chair Preet Gill for all they do to support our efforts. Last year I stood here and I said we were ready to play our part in the general election, and I believe we did just that. Through the election we spent more, phoned more, not more than ever before. We now have a record number of cooperative parliamentarians, more cooperative cabinet ministers than the last 70 years put together, with cooperators with ministerial desks at 9 government departments. They are all armed with the strongest set of cooperative commitments a Labour government has ever had. Work is already underway to deliver manifesto commitments to double the size of the cooperative and mutual sector, deliver the biggest expansion of community-owned energy in history, create a new community right to buy, and deliver one of our movement's priorities to tackle retail crime once and for all. These are key areas we focused on ahead of the election. However, conference, it's clear we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity. I believe our cooperative ideas have so much more to offer. I look forward to our party pushing forward into new areas of campaigning, whether that be housing, social care, early years and more besides. We have the opportunity to leave a much stronger cooperative sector, stronger communities who have a genuine stake in what they value, a more economically empowered country ready to face the future. Finally, conference, these opportunities don't come around too often. We look forward to working with you to build something that no one can ever take away. I hope that future Cooperative Party speakers will be able to stand here and report that it was we who remembered the power of our greatest export. Thank you, conference.
Thank you, Joe, for that contribution. And if now just give us a couple of seconds because we're going to change the platform and Carwyn Jones will take over the chair. Thank you.
Right, conference. We'll now return to our Britain Reconnected debate. Now, there is time for several rounds of speakers. Just to remind you all, as usual, I will call speakers in groups of 4. Now, if you are called, you need to register at the desk over there, okay, before coming up to the podium. Just a reminder that each speaker will have 2 minutes each. So let's begin the debate. Both these debates have already been moved. Could I see anybody who wants to speak, please? There. You'd like to come out and go to the podium? Anyone else at this moment? Yeah, there. Anyone else? There. And there. The hand there, I think it's red. Red top, there we are. Okay. Those are our first 4 speakers.
Chair, Conference, Rachel Harrison, GMB Union, speaking on the Growth Mission Composite. Conference, you will have just heard our General Secretary move our procurement composite, making clear that our national security relies on a state that intervenes and invests to grow our economy. It's about fixing the foundations, but it's also about rebuilding our economy after the Tories' vandalism of our public services and our industries. That requires making confident decisions about public spending. GMB wants to see a Labour government get on with its manifesto commitments and build, but our members will be concerned that a fiscal lock could be used instead to block their fair demand for pay restoration after a decade of real wage cuts without cutting spending to government budgets elsewhere. Nobody wants to see another disastrous Liz Truss budget, but we would expect a Labour government to keep the public finances safe without deferring to the OBR. Working people voted for change and for Labour to be different. We cannot allow the failed ideology of neoliberalism and austerity, which has held our country back, to continue. And we are pleased to see that the Chancellor has committed to this in the press this morning. Therefore, GMB will support the Growth Mission Composite, but with our reservations as set out. Thank you.
Conference. I'm John Orton, Chair Battersea CLP. Despite my grey hair and my sagging jowls, I'm first time at conference and first time delegate. I'm here to support the motion on growth. We campaigned on economic competence and stability in the election. Now we need to deliver. We need to deliver for everybody like Sandra, who was mentioned in the proposer speech, and for everybody else in the country who suffered the same problems that she suffered. The motion sounds a bit managerial, but it's about protecting those who were most disadvantaged and whose lives were wrecked by Liz Truss and by Kwasi Kwarteng. I don't like detailed and specific motions because that ties people's hands, and Rachel has to face reality. But the Budget Responsibility Bill is the right place to start if we're fixing the economy. We've already seen the difficult decisions that Rachel has had to take. No one wants to do more of that than is absolutely necessary. We all want to get the economy growing to the benefit of all. Managing the economy with Labour principles and Labour values at the heart is the best way to do this, to the benefit of Sandra and millions of others who have suffered from Tory mismanagement. I think we all knew knocking on doors during the general election and talking to our local residents and seeing the difficulties and the desperate circumstances they are in. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we needed a Labour government. This Labour government has got a clear plan to fix the economy. I support this motion. Thank you, Conference.
Hello, my name's Claire Hedeman. I'm from East Thanet. I'm a campaigner in East Thanet representing the coastal community towns of Ramsgate, Margate and Broadstairs, and first-time speaker. Conference, I'm proud to say that East Thanet has now got a new Labour MP and our community voted for change. Conference, I recommend the Growth Mission to make change a reality for the neglected coastal communities of East Thanet. My community in East Thanet has been left behind by successive governments with no realistic industrial strategy and jobs that are low paid, and businesses have been affected by the wasteful and reckless policies of the Conservative government. I've knocked on doors and spoken to people whose mortgages have increased and there's no money in their pocket for the basics, to go on holiday or to buy the good things for their kids. And they're hard-working people and they're being left behind and neglected. And the Conservatives have not worried one jot about any of those people in those towns. All they've been concerned about is probably putting money in their own back pocket. East Thanet has high levels of deprivation, and people in my community want change. They voted for change, and we want economic stability. We don't want to continue to pay the price of successive Labour governments. Our community needs a Labour government to bring in a planning and community infrastructure bill. Conference, I recommend the Growth Mission to you to be delivered by a Labour government, as East Thanet communities desperately need it. Thank you.
Steve Garlick, Ruislip, Northwood and Pinner, CLP. The importance of procurement partners in local and national government, ensuring that unions have access to assist workers' protection and to prove good work standards and safety in procurement partners' workplaces, is necessary. We mustn't just, though, look at national government. We need to make sure that local government follows those same good practices. As we all know, the government spends a vast amount of money on procurement each year. This money goes to a wide range of businesses, from small local firms to large multinational corporations such as Amazon. It is essential that we ensure this money is spent wisely and it's used to support businesses that provide good working conditions for their employees. One way to do this is to require procurement partners to create access to unions to assist in workers' protection. Unions play a vital role in protecting workers' rights. They negotiate wages and benefits, and they help to ensure that workers are treated fairly, with respect. By requiring procurement partners to create access for unions, we can be sure that workers in the government supply chain are protected. In addition to requiring access for unions, we should also require procurement partners to provide good work standards and definitely safety in workplaces. Safety is often forgotten in these instances. This can be done through a variety of means, such as requiring them to meet certain standards set by government or by independent organisations. I am no stranger to Amazon's doorstep, and pay is not the only issue that is part of any agreement. The question is, why are many companies avoiding giving workers a voice? By taking these steps, we can ensure that government's procurement pounds are being used to support businesses that provide good working conditions for their employees. We should also remember that workplaces have unions always make a big difference, and those with workplaces on average see 16% higher wages and greater engagement from the workforce. This is because unions help ensure that workers are treated fairly and that they have a voice in the workplace. I urge you to support this motion and these measures. By working together, we can create a more just and equitable workplace for others. Thank you.
Could I see more people to indicate? There. Anybody else?
Mary Wright, Calder Valley CLP Secretary, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. Conference, I stand here today in support of the Growth Mission motion because the stakes for our country and for places like Calder Valley and my local community in Rastrick could not be higher. After 14 years of Conservative chaos, it's our families and communities that have paid the price. The disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget didn't just destabilise the markets, it wrecked people's finances, driving up mortgages and plunging families into deeper cost of living crisis. But thankfully, we have local charities like Focus for Hope, helping those most in need with life's essentials and even gifts for Christmas. Our MP, newly elected, Josh Fenton Glynn, has been a fierce advocate for our community, and he understands that economic stability isn't just about fiscal rules. It's about the real lives of working people. In Calder Valley, we've seen the devastating effects of flooding time and again, and Josh has worked tirelessly to ensure green policies are central to tackling this crisis. It's clear economic growth and environmental sustainability are not separate battles. They are two sides of the same coin. For communities like ours, growth must mean investing in flood defences, green infrastructure and sustainable housing. Without this, we're simply building an economy on shaky ground. That's why this motion is so important. By creating a stable environment for investment through a planning and infrastructure bill, Labour can unlock the growth we need, growth that's not only the highest in the G7, but also resilient and inclusive. Conference, let's seize this opportunity. Let's support this motion to ensure we build an economy that works for all, one that's stable, green and prepared for the future. Calder Valley needs this, and so does the country. Thank you.
Leslie Mansell, proud Unite the Union member and rep in the NHS. Conference, Labour in power must use every tool to rebuild the mess the Tories have left. Public procurement must be a core part of this, whether it's in construction, healthcare, public transport, manufacturing. The procurement process shapes the working conditions, wages and job security of millions of workers in this country. Procurement must be fair and transparent. Stop giving contracts to mates, then bugging them in the House of Lords while goods go down the tips. Company mustn't win contracts at the expense of workers. Paying poverty wages, offshoring jobs, avoiding tax or using zero-hours contracts. To make work pay, thousands of contracts must be insourced, cutting the privateers out of our public services. Contracts must prioritise jobs, hardwire employment rights, trade union access and collective agreements. Stop corrupt profiteers fleecing our health services like hospital PFI schemes that put my hospital into massive debt, hog-tying us from delivering patient services. We can't allow our strategic industries like steel to close, thousands of jobs being lost, leaving communities on the scrap heap, while massive handouts go to the companies largely not based here. Government procurement must deliver sustainability, just transition and local employment. Crucially, trade unions must be round the table when procurement decisions are made, so the needs of workers are central to every decision. The economy won't work unless we put money into it in this country, not in the tax havens. Let's make procurement a tool for progress and social justice again. Thank you.
Thank you, Conference. Martin Gowith, Morecambe and Lunsdale, CLP. it's 50 years ago this year that I joined the Labour Party. And until this year, I didn't think I'd ever see another Labour government. So I'm proud to have worked so hard in Morecambe and Lunsdale to elect Lizzie Collins as our MP. But perhaps I forgot, in this day and age, I'm dressed in Jaeger, Marks and Spencer's, and Next, paid for by myself. But what I do want to see is a strong and stable economy. It's what I grew up with, and it's what I want young people to grow up with. A dozen or so of my friends sat around a table about 10 years ago and said, hey, we'll take the winter heating allowance off the Tories. We're going to give it to charity. Because actually, many of us are on good pensions and we have a good standard of living. What we are most afraid of is young people growing up without final salary schemes, without access to good jobs, and without access to good housing. That's what we want, and that's what a Labour government can deliver. Thank you.
Good morning, Conference. I'm Joseph Ball, first-time delegate and first-time speaker from Holborn and St Pancras, CLP. I was also elected a fortnight ago as a councillor in Camden, replacing the fantastic Georgia Gould, who's now an MP and a minister, which feels amazing to say that we've got Labour ministers now. Exactly 2 years ago today, Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng crashed our economy with their disastrous mini-budget on the 23rd of September 2022. They torpedoed the finances of families up and down this country. We, the Labour Party, subsequently fought the general election on the promise of restoring economic stability after 14 years of Conservative chaos. We also face a housing crisis. In 1945, we had a famous election promise. Let's build those houses quick. We won that general election, we transformed the country and built millions of homes. In 2024, we've again promised to build those homes, both to improve access to decent housing, affordable housing, and to grow the economy. Now, I've spoken to hundreds of residents across Camden about the challenges that they face, whether that be their finances or whether that be social and affordable housing. And our council's worked hard to do what it can to improve the local economy and to offer that support, whether that be housing or cost of living. And now we've got the opportunity to work with a Labour government. This motion calls for the Labour government to protect working families through budget responsibility, to reform audit and corporate governance, to create a more stable investment environment, and to reform planning to unlock housing and infrastructure. Conference, we can't wait to see this implemented, and I urge you to support this motion. Thank you.
Morning, Conference. I am Fred Martin Pearce. I am the first-time delegate and first-time speaking at Conference. Speaking from the newly created seat of Herne Bay and Sandwich in East Kent. This year is my 10th anniversary of being a Labour Party member, and what a year to hit that milestone. Today, I'm speaking to support the growth mission, which aims to create a thriving and vibrant community that offers opportunities for everyone. Herne Bay and Sandwich is an incredible mix of coastal, rural and urban areas, covering 3 local authority areas. Growth can enable the best versions of our people who can prosper, businesses can thrive, and families can create lasting memories. Our mission is not just about economic growth, but it's about preserving the rich heritage and natural beauty of our towns, villages and cities. Conference, let's embrace the spirit of growth and let it ignite our passion and determination to make our constituencies the best they can be. Please support the motion on growth and make a difference in our communities across the United Kingdom. Thank you, Conference.
Hello, Good morning, conference. I'm Chris Bongso Saputro from East and Southeast Asians for Labour. I'm a second-time delegate and a first-time speaker. I would like to speak in favour of the motion on growth mission. Conference, I fully support the aim of this motion that we must never repeat the disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget. I also acknowledge the importance for our government to deliver economic stability for our country. As a proud Yimby, as you can see from my lanyard here, I fully support the Planning and Infrastructure Bill to reform planning and to unlock housing and infrastructure, which our country and our young people so desperately need. And I fully support the aim of the government to deliver 1.5 million homes in the term of our Labour government. I also take an interest in the reference to the draft audit reform and corporate governance bill as a former accountant. Therefore, I would like to clarify with the proposer and seconder how this bill will deliver and create a certain and stable environment for the investment necessary to grow for the economy. Thank you.
Okay, could I see more indications, please? Okay, over there. I can't see any others. Others? Okay, over there. Over there. There again. If you'd like to make your way to the front here, to the podium, to the desk here, please.
Okay. Good morning, conference. My name's Ome Tawezi. I'm a delegate from Brighton, Kemp Town, MP Savin CLP. I'm also the communications officer. I wanted to speak on the growth proposition. Clearly, growth is a fundamental tenet of what the party was elected to do. And as somebody who works in business, who's created businesses, I understand the struggle that's needed and the opportunity I've created for myself and for others. Clearly, growth is something that's fundamental to pay for the services that we want to have for everyone, to fund the economy in the broader sense, but also to create social mobility, which is so fundamental to Labour having the positive impact it will have. So I would urge you to back the growth motion. Thank you.
Good morning, conference. Sarah Birch from Monmouthshire CLP. Economic growth created by greater productivity is very much needed by this country. It will lift families out of poverty and create the wealth that will enable us to rebuild public services. We need growth that comes from meeting human need within our abilities, within our environment. Growth is a means to an end, though. It is not an end in itself. The aim must be sustainable prosperity. We need growth that stays in communities, that enables families to thrive, not growth that is hoovered out by extractive capital and hidden in offshore trusts. In 2015, the Welsh Government passed the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. Do you remember? It's not perfect, but it enshrines the principle that long-term impacts on people and communities and nature must be at the centre of all decision-making. We cannot have a healthy economy without a healthy environment, and we cannot have it without strong families and strong communities. And I ask the Government to put these principles at the centre of all economic thinking. Thank you.
Hello conference, I'm a first-time attendee, a first-time delegate, a first-time visitor to Liverpool. I'll keep this short. I am the CLP delegate for Bermondsey and Old Southwark, and on the banks of the Thames in our constituency we have the HMS Belfast, which stands as a strong reminder of what a good unionised UK workforce can achieve. This motion stands up for our workers, our values, and our country, and I support it not just because it is the right thing to do, the socialist thing to do, but also the patriotic thing to do, and I hope you will support it as well. Thank you.
My name's Andy Butterworth. I represent Portsmouth North constituency, and we created a history in Portsmouth in the general election. We now have 2 Labour MPs for the first time ever. I'm a pensioner, I'm a granddad, and I don't want to go back to an economy run by Liz Truss. When she was in power, at one point, we are reliably told by journalists that she considered withdrawing NHS treatment for cancer care. I want to make a point about procurement, though. In procurement, we need to be very, very mindful of what exactly our mission is. When it came to procurement for COVID, we failed to vaccinate the world, which was our mission. In PPE, procurement failed. We have to have in front of our minds, what is our mission? What are we intending to do? Thank you very much.
Conference. My name's Harry. I am a first-time delegate for Mitcham and Morden and a first-time speaker. This year of the election, we had a great opportunity to change this country for the long term, and that's what we were elected to do. This government is here to fix the foundations of our economy. Therefore, it's vital that we support this growth motion. We need to change this country for the better, for the long term. We're so excited to hear about from our newly elected first ever female Chancellor later on today. And we're going to find out today how we are going to set out a plan to change this country for the long term. It won't be easy, but the core value of growth and of fixing our foundations and changing this country for the better is the core of our party and what we need to do for the long term. Thank you, Conference.
Hello, Conference. I want to speak for the growth motion. My name's Gemma Furnival, and I was elected in May as the only Labour councillor in Fareham, the first to be elected in 25 years. And just a few short weeks after that, I was selected to stand as parliamentary candidate for Fareham and Waterlooville CLP. You will know our area for our MP, Suella Braverman. I didn't win, but I reduced her majority to only 6,000, and we got the wonderful Alex Baker from Aldershot elected to Parliament in our twin seat. I also work in my real job, if I can say that, as a senior public health practitioner, working every day to fight to reduce the very real health inequalities that our communities face. Through campaigning in 2 elections recently, I've spoken with thousands of people, I think. Our constituency is defined by absolute extremes of wealth and poverty down on the south coast, and my ward is the most deprived in our borough. I cannot tell you how relieved I am to be able to finally give those people a local Labour champion who will listen to their needs. None of the people that I spoke to in either campaign actually mentioned the word growth to me. That's not a word they use. What they spoke to me about then and what they contact me about now is struggle. They talked to me about their mortgages, and I was able to share the impact on my family as a disabled woman and an SEN parent when our mortgage went up by 50% after the disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget. We stayed in our home, but I've met many who didn't. I speak to mothers regularly who talk about the pressure to feed their children, buy school uniforms and send them on school trips, to tenants who can't heat their homes, and to working families who are working many, many more hours or several jobs but can't balance their finances. These people don't talk to me about the word growth, but they do talk to me about the word stability and needing that stability to plan their family finances and to think ahead. Under this new Labour government, and the responsible approach Rachel Reeves is taking to the public purse, I am confident that we will be able to finally start to move forward. A resident in my ward emailed me this week to say that she and her neighbours finally feel like they're being listened to and that they have somebody who is considering them in decision making. That was really lovely to hear for me, a little bit of an emotional moment. But now, we get to do the same for the country. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Hello, Conference. Sarah Swingler, Bristol Central CLP, speaking in support of Growth Mission. First-time delegate, first-time speaker. Please listen to me generously and kindly, even if you don't hold my views, particularly as I would like to share a personal experience with you. I'm a freelancer in the television industry, which has been decimated by the chaos of the Tories crashing the economy. Being freelance means I'm self-employed and don't have job security. So I'm reliant on my sector feeling confident enough to employ me and many others like me. I work in documentaries, often highlighting social issues and the inequalities experienced by ordinary, hard-working people. This is important work. Their voices need to be heard. But as freelancers, we are struggling to survive, let alone thrive, with a huge percentage out of work at any one time. And this is despite the creative industries being such an important part of the UK economy. So, we all need economic stability to encourage investment and growth. Please support Growth Mission. Thank you.
Okay, any more speakers? There. 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 And there. Sorry, no. There. Yeah.
Thank you, Conference. Brian Gallagher, Warrington North CLP. I wanted to concentrate on the procurement motion, and I wanted to draw back the attention to PPE in the health service. I spent 5 weeks in intensive care at Warrington General, and I have the complete admiration for all the staff, nurses, doctors and other staff in there who did and worked so hard to save so many people, but unfortunately we all know a lot of people died. The other thing is they were so woefully unprepared with their own PPE, it was embarrassing. Now, we can't forget the £4 billion in fraud that was wiped off by Rishi Sunak. And what we mustn't forget is all those contracts that were given out to their friends who ripped off to the tunes of hundreds of millions of pounds of this country's money, of taxpayers' money. And what I want to say is, the one thing about procurement, I know it covers a lot of things, but on that fraud, we must get that money back. Thank you.
Gillian Weldon, Dulwich and West Norwood.
lecturer for over 12 years with so many students whom I have trained to become business people and good entrepreneurs in the country. But not only that, I believe that the Labour Party is strong for the people, strong for the country, and we have a good economic strategy which has been set by the government, and I hope we support the motion. Thank you.
Deb Davis, speaking on behalf of Newport East CLP. Newport is a proud steel city. For well over a century now, steel products made in Newport have been exported all over the world. So many people across the whole of Newport, Gwent and South Wales have a direct or indirect connection to our local steel industry and Llanwern Works in particular, whether they work there themselves or know someone who did. As a councillor, who is a former steelworker, as my ward colleague, I can vouch for how proud our steelworkers are. Proud of the role steel has played in shaping our community, proud of the bonds of comradeship they share with steelworkers across the country, and proud of the world-class steel products they help to make. I know the same would be true for steelworkers from Port Talbot, Scunthorpe, Corby or Sheffield. Llanwern no longer employs the many thousands of workers it once did, but it was still a hugely important part of our local economy, both directly and through its supply chains. It also continues to produce cutting-edge steel products, including at the Zodiac galvanizing line, which makes premium steels for the automotive industry. As our brilliant MP Jessica Morden has highlighted in Parliament, with the right support, there's no reason why Llanwern can't turn into the finest automotive finishing line in the world. These are still difficult times for our steel industry. The situations at British Steel and in Scunthorpe and Tartar in South Wales show that clearly. However, the fact that we now have a Labour government which understands just how much we need our steel industry can make a huge difference. The National Wealth Fund, and specifically the £2.5 million allocated for Green Steel Fund, can reverse the legacy of Tory neglect, generating high-quality skilled jobs. What a difference it makes to have a proactive Secretary of State in Jonathan Reynolds. Additional investment commitments for Tartar, for Port Talbot, Llanwern and Tostre. A significant improvement on the deals that Tories had struck previously. Whilst the situation remains challenging, Labour has recognised that Britain needs its steel and will be publishing a dedicated steel strategy in the spring. That kind of vision for steel has been lacking from this government for far too long, and we should warmly welcome it. As the great Welsh poet Dylan Thomas once wrote, ambition is critical. That's why we should be brave and bold in investing in our steel industry now and in the future, because the truth is that we can't build a greener economy without a thriving steel industry. Thank you, Conference.
Any more speakers? There. There's another one in that section. Whereabouts can we see? Can you see? Yeah. There. And there. See your hand up there, over there in the corner? Yep. And over there. Thanks.
Freddie Seal, Brent East, first-time delegate, first-time speaker. But long-time fan of the show. Conference, I've been a member for about 11 years. I'm a trade unionist as well. I'm a member of the RMT. I work on our railway. I've got more hair than most members of the RMT, but... And this incoming Labour government, speaking on the procurement motion, is going to transform my life and the lives of millions of other trade unionists in Britain through making work pay and insourcing. My first job on the railway was an outsourced contract. Was treated very badly. They treated the trade union very badly. And having the legislative framework change will transform the lives of millions of people, as will insourcing. However, procurement in defence and other industries is not just about manufacturing. In the RMT, we have members in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, which is the civilian arm of the Royal Navy. Its members do vital work in war zones, humanitarian relief. It had members who lost their lives in the Falklands conflict. However, there has not been a review of their terms and conditions and pay since October in 2000. They've been on strike this week. No one likes to lose pay, particularly people who serve in a job so important for this country's infrastructure. Conference, if we're serious about making work pay and keeping skills in Britain, the government must sit down and make an acceptable offer to the Royal Fleet Auxiliary members in the RMT. Thank you.
Good morning, Conference. I am Councillor Tariq Mahmood. I represent London Borough of Ealing. Ealing North is my constituency, and I'm here first-time delegate and first-time speaker. Conference, if you can give you a flavor of my advice surgery, if you come and attend my advice surgery, you could see how many single mothers and how many people are struggling with this economical crisis and cost of the living. Hundreds single mothers in the queue of housing supply. Conference, it's a very, very serious chaos when the Tory left is here. And now Labour fought and won general election on the promise of economic stability, and after 14 years of Tory chaos, now we are here to fix the problem. So Conference, my constituency and my CLP is supporting that motion, and I would urge Conference to support this motion. Thank you very much.
Morning, Conference. Chris Weller, Canterbury CLP, first-time speaker. Supporting the growth motion, because we need to reach net zero by 2050. We need to retrofit and green up every home. So what does that mean? That is 2 houses every 2 minutes by 2050 to green up all our homes. We have a huge opportunity for growth and investment in the green economy. We have a skills shortage, though, in good green jobs. We need 20,000 qualified heat pump engineers now. We've only got 3,000. Skill up our young people, green up our economy. We need to invest in apprenticeships and our colleges. This new Labour government will deliver on this growth agenda for now and future generations. So please support this motion.
Good morning, Conference. I'm Amanda Riley. I'm the delegate from Stockton West, which is a newly created constituency. I am first-time delegate and first-time speaker. I am a councillor in Darlington and I'm also a GP. The reason that I got into politics was to tackle the health inequalities and the wider determinants of health that we see daily affecting the lives of people. In my work as a GP, I have seen that this neglect of poverty, neglect of the wider determinants of health by the Tory government over the last 15 years has cost lives. We do have an ambitious plan to tackle poverty, to tackle healthcare, education, and all of the other things that make a difference to people's lives. But we can only do this if we have a strong, stable, and vitally growing economy, which is why I think it's incredibly important that we all support this growth mission today. Thank you.
Any more speakers? There. Let's see. There. Yes. Yes. Over there. There. And there.
Good morning. First time delegate, first time speaker. I'm Billy Barnes. I live in Hastings and Rye. In May this year, I was elected to council, resoundingly defeating the Reform UK incumbent. Then, in July, we elected Helena Dollimore as our new MP, with the largest Labour majority the seat has ever had. Hastings needs growth, and we need it now. Stats from Shelter showed that Hastings has the worst rate outside London for children living in temporary accommodation. And to quote the worst MP we ever had, that is a disgrace. Rachel Reeves, Britain's first female Chancellor in over 800 years of that role, is focused on delivering growth. Our town desperately needs that growth. Our town desperately needs better public services, jobs for young people, and better opportunities for all. Conference, please support this motion.
Good morning, Conference. My name is Seth. I'm a first-time delegate, and I'm speaking in support of the G&B procurement motion. I am from the Pontypridd CLP in South Wales. For the past 14 years, as the Chair may know, the Welsh Labour government has acted as a beacon of hope in an otherwise Tory-ruled UK. Last year, our Senedd passed the Social Partnership and Public Procurement Act. This embedded our party's trade unionist and social justice principles into government procurement policy. Welsh Labour recognised the importance of just public procurement, as well as the responsibility of Labour governments to protect the role of trade unions not only in our workplace, but alongside lawmakers. I encourage our new UK Labour government, of which we are all so proud, to take inspiration from its partner in Cardiff Bay and ensure social justice sits at the heart of public procurement. I'm sure that it will be heartening for all of us to see the UK Labour Party adopt a similar position to that of the Welsh Labour government, and I hope that Conference passes the procurement motion to do so. Thank you.
Good morning, conference. I'm Navin Shah. I'm a CLP delegate from Harrow West. I'm not a new delegate. I'm not the first-time speaker. In fact, I came here in the late 70s, which was my first conference. I spoke first time in the early 90s when I spoke about two-state solution for Israel and for Palestine. It was relevant then, even more relevant now. And I hope that we come together and support and work for this two-state solution for peace and prosperity. Thank you. I also welcome the leaders, the Labour government's amazing mission to build 1.5 million housing throughout this particular 5-year program. This means an amazing amount of growth in economy, construction industry, and jobs right across the country, and particular emphasis on much-needed affordable housing is also very welcomed. But one thing we also need to prioritize is disabled housing, which is lacking in a big way, something which has been ignored for 14 years under Tory government, and something which we cannot allow to go on. So this is one plea to our Labour government. But I repeat, growth in construction industry will be amazing. Infrastructure regeneration, social regeneration, etc. will also be amazing. So in that respect, given the huge boost in economy the housing program will mean, and that is why I support the growth motion before us this afternoon. Thank you very much.
My name is Zach Heskins, and I am a first-time speaker and first-time delegate. Thank you. Conference, I am speaking in favour of the motion on growth. The past 14 years have seen economic insecurity like we've never seen it before, with a mess left behind, still felt by many families up and down the country today. It's unfortunate that in spite of unfunded tax cuts for the rich under the leadership of Liz Truss, there are still those in the party who deny that neither she nor anyone else in her government had anything to do with it. It's also unfortunate that having been left with a £22 billion black hole, there has been not one apology from the Tory party, but more constant denial and contempt of us cleaning up their mess. Yet, Conference, we now have the opportunity to make sure we are never in a similar position again. And I commend our efforts to install Great British Energy, which will alleviate many struggling to heat their homes out of poverty. This is my first experience of a Labour government since I was just 4 years old, and now at the age of 19, I can stand here today faced with an alternative to our plan which won't allow anyone at the bottom of society to feel the pain they used to under the Tories. We as a party have always been committed to economic growth and security. Even in the darkest hours of Tory austerity, our Labour Party listened to those struggling, and we were right to do so. I defy anyone who says we are all the same. We are embarking on the start of a new anti-poverty mission for our country. We want the next Labour government to support us on our mission to deliver clean and safe housing for all, avoiding another avoidable tragedy like Grenfell. Listening to Angela's speech yesterday reminded, I think, all of us what our mission is: to help those at the bottom of society and deliver the economic growth all of us can benefit from, not pretending it doesn't exist, nor taking advantage of struggling families. Surely that is part of the very foundation our party was built on. Thank you all very much, and please support this motion.
My name is Flynn Cowell from Crawley CLP, and I'm a first-time delegate and a first-time speaker. I'm proud to live in a town which is a beacon of economic activity in the South East, with Gatwick Airport in our constituency. But after 14 years of Conservative misrule, we have some of the lowest growth in the South East. As a young person, I support Rachel Reeves and this government's plan for growth, for skills for young people, for better houses for young people, for good jobs for young people. Conference support this motion and support this government in driving economic growth for my generation. Thank you.
There. Yes, there. Yep, I've got you over there.
Good morning, Conference. My name is Joe Baker. I'm the leader of Redditch Borough Council, elected on May the 2nd, when we took control of the council with a majority of 15 councillors. Thank you. Thank you. Three years ago, Labour had 4 councillors out of 29, and we now have 20 out of the 27 councillors. So Redditch needed a Labour council. We've got a population of just under 90,000 people who live in Redditch. However, we have 9 food banks. Labour in Redditch set up the Uniform Bank, where we distribute, collect and hand out second-hand uniforms. In August, we had nearly 800 people attend the Uniform Bank to get school uniforms. Labour has Redditch has a high level of child poverty in its area, and we need change in this country. We need change in Redditch, and I please implore you to support this change bill, because we need economic growth, we need change, we need better job conditions, and we need people to feel safe and secure in their homes. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Conference, Vince Maple, Chair of the Association of Labour Councillors. And it's a real privilege to speak in this debate on behalf of nearly 7,000 councillors, councillors like Joe we just heard from a moment ago, because up and down the country, communities have been choosing change over the last 2 years. Places like Medway, where we took control of the council for the first time in more than 20 years. And this year, places like Rushmore, where we took control of the council for the first time in 50 years. Communities are choosing change, and I'm proud of that. But to use that phrase we hear all too often after something really hard, the hard work just begins now. But we're ready for that hard work. People in this room, our councillors up and down the country, are ready to work with this new Labour government, making the changes our communities need today, tomorrow and into the future. And the future is important. Communities like Medway are fed up with the sticking plaster politics we had for too long. The 91% cut in the revenue support grant since 2010, and our council now having to deal with that. So we're ready for change, and it's about growth, as the motion we're talking about this morning. So I'm really proud in our administration, working closely with the Federation of Small Businesses, signing that pledge to say, we will work with you. We're not against you. We're not the red tape. We're making you succeed. So, Conference, let's go from this meeting this week to say loud and clear the change has started, the change has begun in local government, working hand in hand with central government, not being ignored by Michael Gove, but in people like Angela Rayner and Jim McMahon, true champions of local government. I urge you to support this motion. Let's get behind our government and make the change our country needs. Thank you very much.
My name is Hattie Simpson, and I'm delegate for Harrow West. I'm a first-time speaker, first-time delegate. Behind me on the screen is the words "change begins." And core to this is economic change. This is the reason we are here, this is the reason we were elected, and this is the reason why we are the first Labour government in 15 years. We stood on a platform of ridding the economy and the country of the chaos of the last 14 years. I am 18 years old. All I remember is Tory government and the chaos that came with it. So I am proud that we are here now to provide stability for the country. For the first time, I feel hope for the future. I feel hope that one day I might own my own home. A feeling that I can trust my government and the people who run it. I am most proud, of course, of having the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, a role that has existed for over 800 years. I am proud to be part of the party that passed the Fiscal Responsibility Bill, that is working to nationalise the railways and create Great British Energy. And so I am here to speak in support of the growth motion, because Labour is the party of our future and the party of change. Thank you.
Good morning, Conference. My name is Joanna Howard, and I'm here on behalf of the Bournemouth West CLP. I'm a first-time delegate and first-time speaker at Conference. Many people didn't believe it was possible, but in July we elected our first Labour MP and the first woman to represent Bournemouth West, Jessica Toll. Conference, I'm here to speak in favour of the motion on growth. I'm a working mother with 3 young children, and this month our mortgage payments increased considerably. I know firsthand the difficult decisions that working parents have to make to be able to work out how to pay for their nursery, their wraparound childcare, mortgage, and the many other bills. It is not easy. The Conservative government only made it harder, and my family and so many others in Bournemouth West constituency are feeling the impact. I support the motion to call on the Labour government to protect the family finances of hard-working families by passing a budget responsibility bill. Hard-working families simply should not have to worry month to month about whether they will be able to afford their mortgage or rent, heat their home, or buy enough food for their families. Let's turn our back on the cost of living crisis for good. Thank you for your time, Conference, and please support the motion on growth.
Right, let's see some more indications, please. There, 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 right in the distance there. And over there, we think as well. There. Just going to call where we're in the scene. And there. There, I can see, yes. There. Should take us through till
Thank you, Chair. I feel privileged
to be speaking on the conference floor today. I was 12 years old when my father was given the opportunity to work and build a new life with his young family on the south side of London in the borough of Croydon. "20 years on, I'm humbled to be standing here in front of you at this historic conference, sharing your hope for a better future. Under 14 years of Conservative government, we felt hope wane. Young people were denied the opportunities that their parents' generation enjoyed. We owe to our daughters and sons to be bold and innovative, to lead and not to follow. Conference, under the Conservative government, tuition fees tripled, childcare costs soared, the economy crashed, making it impossible for honest, hard-working families to buy their first home and to get a stake in societal wealth. We need to turn the page. With our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and our first female Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, we will rip up the old rule book and write a new one. We will rebuild our country, root out 14 years of rot, and fix the foundations for the mission to create growth and opportunities. I ask you today to support the growth mission, to protect families, to turbocharge our economy, and to bring growth and prosperity for working families. Thank you, Conference.
Good morning, Conference. My name is Raja Zishan, and I'm the first-time CLP delegate from the Greenwich and Woolwich. So I would like to actually talk about in favor of the motion regarding the crime mission. Today, we stand at a critical juncture where crime is escalating, and our communities feel the strain of years of neglect by the Tory government. The recent statistics are shocking. Shoplifting has reached a 20-year high, and theft has surged by nearly 20% over the past year. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the lives impacted, the businesses suffering, and the safety of our streets compromised. This motion is more than a call to action. It's a commitment to rebuild trust in our policing and justice system. By putting 13,000 neighboring police officers and PSOs back on our streets, we make our communities feel seen and protected once again. The introduction of respect orders and measures like the Victims Court and Public Protection Bill will empower our police and ensure that victims of crime get the justice they deserve. We must stop turning a blind eye to antisocial behavior and the daily struggles of shop workers who face threats and violence, scrapping the effective immunity introduced by the Conservatives and creating specific offences for assaults on shop workers will send a clear message. Labour stands with those on the front line of our communities. Conference, this mission also extends to our youth, offering them pathways away from crime with the new Young Future programs, providing them with hope and opportunities, not criminal records. Conference, let's stand united to support this motion and ensure our streets are safe, our justice system is fair, and our communities are strong. So let's be united to build a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Good morning, conference. My name is Tricia Lehman. I'm a first-time speaker and a newly elected councillor to Camden Council. And I can tell you, it looks so easy sitting down there, and up here it is completely terrifying. I want to speak in support of the clean energy mission, and particularly, I think, to highlight from my experience, my observation, the impact that sky-high energy prices have had on families in my area of North London. The impact of the cost of living crisis on our families locally has been really extreme. I know it applies across the country, but what we've seen in North London and the work that we've done with our families reminds us that this cost of living crisis has impacted particularly on the women in our community. It's the women who are ending up going to the food banks. It's the women who are doing 2 and 3 jobs, who are finding that even on that basis, they can't get the extras at school that they're now needing to pay for to give their kids the widest possible education opportunities. So this cost of living crisis, it really goes deep in our communities. And the Tories have a lot to answer for in the damage that they have done to people's lives over the last 14 years. We can't overstate that, and we mustn't ever forget it. Coming back to the clean energy mission, the links here, I think, really matter. You know, we've got, say it quietly, a really revolutionary government in the House now, taking control. It's our government that are going to build a publicly owned clean energy generation company, and that is going to bring down the cost of energy. That is going to help our families deal with the sky-high prices that they've had to fight against in the last few years. So, conference, please support the clean energy mission and understand it's about, yes, it's about reinvigorating our industry. Yes, it's about going green, but it's also about helping families at a very individual basis. Thank you, conference.
Thank you, conference. My name is Councillor Daniel Wilton. I'm a first-time speaker, however, my second time as a delegate. Thank you. I'm standing here as a councillor on Wakefield Council, a newly elected councillor this time, but I'm standing in support of the growth mission. I represent a working-class northern town in the heart of West Yorkshire. I might not look it, but I was born under the last Labour government, and it was a real privilege to be able to knock on doors in the general election and say our number one mission is about growth and economic stability. I know that with Rachel Reeves at the helm, we have a real opportunity to bring that mission forward and to take it to another level. The strong working economy, and it works for our working class communities. What I'm so excited about the most is that we're going to have Labour councillors working with a Labour mayor in Tracy Brabin, and now Labour MPs in a Labour government working to boost the economic growth to the top it can be. Thank you, conference.
Morning, conference. The higher the lectern, it's really good for tall people. I'm from Cornwall, Steve Hines, St Ives, and we voted for 4 out of 6 of our seats turned Labour. First time in history we've had a majority of MPs in Cornwall, Labour MPs. Every cloud has a silver lining. Out of the 6, 2 are Lib Dem. But we can say Cornwall is now a Tory-free zone. And it's important to say that because the failures of the Tory government, and yet we know from this motion, we've talked about Liz Truss and the absolute disaster of the Tory administration crashing the economy. We need growth, and Cornish people voted for growth. They voted for economic prosperity. I know everybody a lot of you in this hall are going to think of Cornwall about surfing and holidays. But we have real poverty in Cornwall, and we need economic growth. And the other thing we need is housing. And this government has got ambitious plans around housing. And this motion is fantastic. But of course, the devil will be in the detail. You wouldn't believe it, but I'm only 22. I've spent... OK, you don't believe me. All right, I've spent a lot of my time as a local councillor on planning committees. And a lot of my time, I think I've been wasting, because the planning system is broken in this country. It is anti-growth. It's a speculator's charter. We have people putting in planning permission. All they want is capital growth and their land prices. It doesn't work. The other point to make about it, and the problem that we have in Cornwall, is getting volume housing. We want to meet these targets, but we will need state intervention. We'll need stronger laws around planning to discourage the NIMBYs, and we will need state subsidies. You cannot have a planning system that geared towards building affordable houses when the economic reality is it costs £250,000 to build a family home. You do the maths. If you're on a nurse's salary or a police person's salary, you cannot afford a house at those prices if a landowner and a builder is going to make a profit. So
Sorry, Speaker, if you could wind up now.
I go on. But the devil will be in the detail. We need real change, and we will need state subsidies.
Morning conference. My name's Christine Bayliss, and I'm here as a delegate for Bexhill and Battle constituency in East Sussex. I was the parliamentary candidate earlier this year in July. We reduced a 26,000 majority to 2,600. We're now a marginal. And what is more, next door, in our twin seat of Hastings, we elected Helena Dollamore as our Labour MP. Now, my day job is Cabinet Lead on Rother District Council for Economic Development and Regeneration. And I'm on the Cabinet as part of a coalition, along with two colleagues who I think are here today, representing anti-poverty and equalities and also housing. And as the economic development lead, I believe that, if you like, I'm the other side of a coin that's anti-poverty. We support people properly when they need it, and then we develop jobs and the economy for when they are ready. And conference, we have 2,000 people on our housing waiting list. We have high levels of hidden poverty in Bexhill and Battle. So you can't imagine how frustrating it's been for the last few years to have a Tory government that never listened. So we got a Labour government, and the main area is growth. The main area is developing our economy so we can grow it and help more people, improve our public services, improve housing. I can't wait to get started. Please support the growth motion.
Thank you, Conference. Terence Smith, East Hull CLP. Today is 2 years since the Liz Truss mini-budget. 2 years since recklessness led to thousands of people like myself paying more for their mortgage. Every single month, I now live with the reality of what happens when people take actions that don't care about working people. I'm proud to live and work in East Hull, the greatest place you can ever visit. We've seen green energy investment from companies like Siemens, and we've got so many more ready to invest. And that's why I'm proud to have a Labour government that's willing to work with green energy to transform communities like mine in East Hull. At the last Labour government, lives were changed like mine because the economy grew. And I'm now so excited to see what this Labour government can do to change lives for the next generation. Conference, support the growth and clean energy mission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for contributing to that debate and to the speakers who gave their contributions. We'll now take the votes for the Britain Reconnected debate. As ever, votes will be taken by show of hands. The first vote is on Composite 1 procurement. Can I see all those in favour, please? All those against? That is clearly carried. Composite 2, the growth mission. All those in favour? And all those against? That also is clearly carried. Well, thank you, Conference. I'll be leaving you now, and Ellie Reeves will be replacing me as Chair.
Good morning, Conference. It's my great pleasure to invite Jonathan Reynolds to speak.
Conference, I stand here before you today, proud to be your Secretary of State for Business and Trade, proud to be a part of the most working-class cabinet in British history. And proud of the pro-business, pro-worker platform that was fundamental to our success at the election, but which will be even more fundamental to our success in government. No one should be in any doubt. We campaigned as a pro-business party, and we will govern as a pro-business party. Because we know we cannot deliver for the British people unless we turn around the low investment, low productivity, low growth economy which we have inherited. And we cannot do that unless we work in partnership with business to bring about the change we need. And my ask of all of you is not just to support that agenda, but to actively stand with me and this Labour government as we work day and night to again give people the work and the wages and the prosperity and the living standards that everyone in Britain needs and everyone in Britain deserves. Because Conference, the task is urgent. What I found when I walked through the door of my department on the 5th of July was a mess, left by Conservative ministers who had simply ceased to govern. Just like the Downing Street parties they threw, they expected someone else to come in and clear up after them. That Conservative overspending, the £22 billion black hole in the Treasury Reserve, put at risk things that could not be more important to the British people. Money for the steel industry, compensation for postmasters, and vital decisions on everything from shipbuilding to automotive had simply not been taken. They were deferred. They were left for us to deal with. You know, if people ask me for an example of what a pro-worker, pro-business agenda looks like, I point out to them that over the last decade, the unions in this room have actually fought harder for British industry than the Conservative Party did. And Conference, nowhere have we seen that more than in steel. And I'd like to thank Community and GMB and Unite for working with me to improve the deal for the workforce at Port Talbot. I will always be the first to say, I wish we could have done more. But I can tell you, working together with the unions, we have done more for steel in 2 months than the Conservative Party did in 14 years. And I'm always aware of just how consequential the decisions that I make are, that they touch the lives of a great many people. And understanding that is what being a government of service is all about. And we have already begun the work to deliver that change. Implementing our plan for small business. Where previous governments talked about ending late payments, we have taken the action needed to ensure companies pay on time. And we aren't just tackling issues like business rates, but removing the wider barriers that hold back our local economies, making our high streets safe and vibrant once again, including new measures to stop violence against shop workers and turning around derelict town centres. It means delivering on our industrial strategy, so we win a greater share of investment in the UK for the industries that will contribute the most to our future growth. It means having a trade strategy that resets our relationship with the EU whilst also building new trade opportunities around the world. And Conference, alongside those things, we cannot deliver the change we want without delivering our New Deal for working people. Now, Conference, you may have seen the Conservative Party. They don't like our plan to make work pay. And whilst it's ironic to hear the same people who have been asleep on the job for the last 14 years complain about other people's working practices, didn't we hear the same arguments against the minimum wage? So when they stand up in a few years' time trying to claim credit for the work the labour movement did to advance the rights of working people, don't you let them forget which side of history they were on. Because Conference, we know when it comes to the Conservative Party, the British public have already availed themselves of the right to switch off. Conference, I will always make the case that many businesses in Britain model fantastic best practice, that they invest in their workforce, whether it's offering shared parental leave or support for carers. And we are going to make Britain more competitive and more investable. But our mission is not just for growth, but for growth that everybody benefits from. So, Conference, I put it to you. Where a person has worked a regular number of hours for some time, they should have the right to a contract that reflects those hours. And where a person has worked somewhere for 2 years, they do deserve protection from being unfairly dismissed. And that most of all, where a person goes out to work, not only do they deserve to be fairly paid for that work, but what every business also needs are customers who have some money in their pocket, some spending power, and that means over time moving towards a Britain where everyone earns a real living wage. Conference, the task ahead of us is a big one. It will be difficult at times, but no one else can change this country. So I say let's accept the challenge and get on with the job. And if you feel the same drive, the same passion, the same energy, and most of all the same hope that I feel every day as your Secretary of State, I am telling you we can build a Britain not just of good work and good wages, but of dignity, respect and opportunity. The Britain we have always believed in, the Britain we have always strived to build. Conference, together for the first time in years, our pro-business, pro-worker government gives us the chance to do exactly that. And I promise, as your Secretary of State, I will work every single moment I have to make that happen. Thank you very much, Conference.
Conference, with huge pride, can I please welcome Alex de Pledge to introduce the Chancellor.
Jerry Maguire is one of my all-time favourite movies. There's a bit in it towards the end where Tom Cruise is grovelling to Renée Zellweger, as men often do, and she stops him dead in his tracks and says, "You had me at hello." That's what Rachel did to me back in 2022. Although she didn't say hello, her actual words were, "I want to make sure that wealth creation is no longer a dirty word in the UK." Okay, snappy, it was not. Accurate, hell yeah. After years of Boris saying F business and Gove complaining that he was sick of experts, I thought, finally, here's a woman, no less, that understands industry and gets that without wealth creation, i.e. economic growth, you can't have excellence in the NHS. You can't fix roads or fund schools or increase salaries or help people live in better housing. Wealth creation creates more than wealth. It's the engine of social progress. I see this every day in my own company, Resi. We're leveraging technology to make home extensions way more affordable and available to Britain's squeezed homeowners. I love my company because of the real benefit that it brings to these people's lives, and that benefit is not in any way diminished because it's private enterprise, only strengthened through the innovation and agility we can bring to the sector. When I look at Rachel, I see a woman who gets this, but on a national level, who understands that the choices ahead of her are not simple ones. There's no silver bullet to a thriving economy, and there's certainly no easy ride with the press. I see a person who knows all of this and continues on regardless, because she's got a job to do and the competency to see it through. So, if I have to choose a smart person to run this nation's spreadsheets, I choose Rachel. If I have to choose a builder to fix our broken economic foundations, I choose Rachel. And if I have to choose a leader to champion high growth and balanced books, again, I choose Rachel. Actions speak louder than words. So let's take a look at what Rachel's been up to recently. But before we get there, I want you to break out of your polite Britishness for just one moment. Lovely people, please join me in giving your biggest, your noisiest, and your most welcoming cheer for the lady that didn't just break the glass ceiling, she took a wrecking ball to it. Our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves.
Conference, please welcome Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Conference, thank you. This time last year, I stood on this stage and I made a commitment. I promised that we would get Britain building again, repair our NHS, and power growth in every part of Britain. Today, after 14 wasted years, I stand here as your Chancellor of the Exchequer, ready to deliver on that commitment. At this conference, we welcome more than 200 new Labour MPs, members of the most diverse parliament in our country's history. Labour winning for the very first time in seats like South East Cornwall, the Isle of Wight, Aldershot, Banbury and Basingstoke. In Hexham, Altrincham and the Ribble Valley, and Labour is back in the service of communities that we never should have lost, in our port, coal, steel and mill towns, from Bolsover, Bassetlaw and Grimsby, to Hartlepool, Rother Valley, Newton, Aycliffe and Bridgend, and Conference, in Edinburgh, in Glasgow, across the Central Belt and out in the Western Isles. Labour is back in Scotland too. So let me pay tribute to the people in this hall who made that difference. Those who stayed and fought through the hard years. Those who came back to our party under Keir's leadership. And those who joined us for the very first time. You helped change our party. And you gave us this priceless chance to change our country for the better. To all of you, a huge thank you. In this hall, 1 year ago, I stated my intention that the next time I addressed you, I would do so as the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer. Today, Conference, you can consider that a promise fulfilled. 800 years the post of Chancellor of the Exchequer has existed. Everyone a man. On the 5th of July, we made history. Every woman watching this will know, no matter how high you climb, how hard you work, how qualified you are, there will always be moments when you are reminded. Some people still do not believe that a woman can get the job done. But millions of women in our party, in our trade unions, and in every walk of life beat back those doubts. I am here today because I worked hard, yes, but most of all, I'm here because of the efforts of those who went before me. Trailblazing women like Jenny Lee, Barbara Castle, and our friend and our inspiration, Harriet Harman. And I'm here because of thousands of women, many of you in the hall today, who broke down barriers and defeated low expectations to pave the way for the rest of us. I am a Labour Chancellor because of that collective endeavour. I am the first woman Chancellor because of that collective endeavour. And that collective endeavour does not stop here. It falls to me and to our generation of Labour women to follow in the footsteps of those who went before us, to write the work of all women back into our economic story, to show our daughters and our granddaughters that they need place no ceiling on their ambitions. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. But Conference, why is it that the British people put their trust in us for the first time in 5 general elections? It is because, thanks to Keir's leadership, we left no stone unturned to show that Labour is the party of economic responsibility and the party of working people. We were elected because, for the first time in almost 2 decades, people looked at us, looked at me, and decided that Labour could be trusted with their money. That is more than a political choice or a single line in any manifesto. It is about our values, because we saw what happened 2 years ago when governments play fast and loose with the public finances. When the prices of food and housing and energy soar, it is working people with mortgages, rents and bills to pay who suffer the consequences. Well, I will not take that risk. I will repay the trust that people put in us. Trust is hard-earned, but it's easily squandered. Just ask the Conservatives. They paid the price for their incompetence, their dishonesty and their rule-breaking. This is a changed Labour Party that represents working people, not a party of protest. Today because we changed our Labour Party and we now have the chance to change our country for the better. We've had years of protest and we've had years of division and decline that left working people worse off. It wasn't for the Conservatives just the heaviest defeat in their party's history, but it was the heaviest defeat for any governing party in British history. And conference, I can tell you today that I am so proud that our Women's Parliamentary Labour Party is bigger than the entire Conservative Parliamentary Party. And so where will the Conservatives go next? Well, what a clash of the titans their leadership contest has become. The former Home Secretary, who called the Rwanda scheme batshit, and is of course now pledging to bring it back. The former Immigration Minister, who found himself too right-wing to work with Suella Braverman. The moderate candidate, the former Security Minister, who says that he acts on his principles, previously demonstrated by backing Liz Truss to be Prime Minister. And then there's the former Business Secretary, who claims that she became working class at the age of 16. But conference, the Tories' failure was not just because they were incompetent or deluded, not just because they put party before country. Of course, both of those are true. It is because they do not understand the world as it is today. They do not understand the premium on economic stability in an uncertain world. They do not understand that in our new age of insecurity, government cannot just get out of the way and leave markets to their own devices. Instead, the Tories cling to the discredited, trickle-down and trickle-out dogma that a strong economy can be built through the contribution of just a few people, a few parts of the country, or a few industries. Their ideas choked off investment, opened wide gaps between different parts of the country, and it suffocated growth and living standards. We will not make those mistakes. Yet, when their ideas were found wanting, what did they do? They doubled down. Never forget what the Conservatives did. 2 years ago today, in their clamour to cut taxes for the richest, they crashed the economy, sent mortgages spiralling and put pensions in peril. And you will hear many things at their conference next week, but you won't hear an apology. No apology for the cost of your mortgage. No apology for crumbling classrooms and rising waiting lists. No apology for mismanaging our public finances, degrading our institutions and crashing our global standing in the world. They do not care, and they have learned nothing. So be in no doubt. Be in no doubt. Given the chance, they will try and do it all over again. Only we, only the Labour Party can stop them. So we must have no complacency, a relentless focus on the priorities of the British people, and iron discipline. We cannot give them that chance. So let's resolve together today that we will not give them that chance. Now, I know that you are impatient for change. I am too. But conference, because of that legacy left by the Conservatives, the road ahead is steeper and harder than we expected. You don't need to take my word for it. Figures released only on Friday showed another month of record borrowing. Debt at 100% of GDP. That is the inheritance that they left in black and white. In my first weeks at the Treasury, the true extent of the Tories' irresponsibility was revealed to me. £22 billion of spending plans this year that the previous government did not disclose, which they had no plan to pay for, and which they had covered up from Parliament and from the British people. Departments had been allocated money that they were spending, but which did not exist. The money was not there. A £22 billion black hole, which, if not tackled now, will pose risks for years to come. That included more than £6 billion overspend on the asylum system, including their failed Rwanda policy. Almost £3 billion on rail projects. The nation's reserve, intended for genuine emergencies, set to be spent 3 times over, only 3 months into the financial year. They were reckless, they were irresponsible, and they acted in that way, not because they believed it was right for our country, but because they believed it might rescue their party from defeat. They promised solutions that they knew could never be paid for, roads that would never be built, public transport that would never arrive, and hospitals that would never treat a single patient. They showed no regard for ordinary working people, and they did not care about the consequences. It was made clear to me that failure to act swiftly could undermine the UK's fiscal position, with implications for public debt, mortgages, and prices. And so I took action to make the in-year savings necessary. We are reviewing plans for new hospitals promised by the Conservatives, but which they did not budget for. We cancelled road and rail projects promised by the Conservatives, but which they did not budget for. And I made the choice to means test the winter fuel payment so that it is only targeted at those most in need. I know that not everyone in this hall or in the country will agree with every decision that I make. But I will not duck those decisions. Not for political expediency, not for personal advantage. Faced with that £22 billion black hole that the Conservatives left this year, and with the triple lock ensuring that the state pension will rise by an estimated £1,700 over the course of this Parliament, I judged it the right decision in the circumstances that we inherited. I did not take those decisions lightly. I will never take the responsibilities of this office lightly. And I will never take lightly the trust of voters who have been burned too often by politicians who put ideology and party and self-interest above the interests of the British people. And so we must deal also with another Tory legacy. Conference, I know how hard people work for their money. Taxpayers' money should be spent with the same care with which working people spend their own money. And so 1 year ago, I promised you that this Labour government would wage a war on Tory waste. It has begun. I pledged that we would aim to halve government consultancy spend, and we have already announced savings this year. I pledged that we would cut down on the excesses of Tory ministers' private air travel, and we have already cancelled the £40 million contract for Rishi Sunak's VIP helicopter. And I pledged that we would act on the carnival of waste and fraud that took place during the COVID pandemic. Billions of pounds of public money handed out to friends and donors of the Conservative Party. Billions more defrauded from the taxpayer. More than £1 billion spent on PPE that either did not arrive or was not fit for purpose. All under the cover of the greatest crisis of my lifetime. On entering government, we found £674 million of contracts in dispute, where we inherited a recommendation from the previous government that any attempt to reclaim that money should be abandoned. The Tories simply did not care, but Labour will not stand for it. I will not stand for it. So, as I promised, we are appointing a COVID corruption commissioner. It could not be more urgent. And I have put a block on any contract being abandoned or waived until it has been independently assessed by that commissioner. I won't turn a blind eye to rip-off artists and fraudsters. I won't turn a blind eye to those who use a national emergency to line their own pockets. I won't let them get away with that. That money belongs in our police, it belongs in our health service, and it belongs in our schools. And Conference, we want that money back. Next month, I will deliver the first budget of this Labour government. The first Labour budget in 14 years. And because I know how much damage has been done in those 14 years, let me say one thing straight up. There will be no return to austerity. Conservative austerity was a destructive choice for our public services and for investment and growth too. Yes, we must deal with the Tory legacy, and that means tough decisions. But I won't let that dim our ambition for Britain. So it will be a budget with real ambition, a budget to fix the foundations, a budget to deliver the change that we promised, a budget to rebuild Britain. And my budget will keep our manifesto commitments. Every choice we make will be within a framework of economic and fiscal stability. You'd expect nothing less. We said we would not increase taxes on working people, which is why we will not increase the basic, higher or additional rates of income tax, national insurance or VAT. And we will cap corporation tax at its current level for the duration of this Parliament. Conference, as promised, we will extend the energy profits levy on oil and gas producers to invest in homegrown energy here in Britain. We will end the non-dom tax loopholes, and we will crack down on tax avoidance and tax evasion. That is the difference that a Labour government will make. And we are already delivering on that promise to cut down on tax avoidance and tax evasion. Strengthening the powers of HMRC under the leadership of our Exchequer Secretary James Murray, and recruiting 5,000 new tax compliance officers. Because this government will not sit back and indulge the minority who avoid paying the taxes that they owe. And Conference, we will enact another manifesto commitment. because I know every parent has aspiration for their children. And I know the strain that our state schools have been under. This government will introduce VAT on private school fees to invest in our state schools. It is the fair choice, the responsible choice, the Labour choice to support the 94% of our children in our state schools. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. This budget will be a budget for economic growth. It will be a budget for investment. Because today we find ourselves at the very bottom of the G7 league table for economy-wide investment as a share of our GDP. And we must change that. Conference, I believe in a better Britain. A Britain of opportunity, fairness, and enterprise. I know that country has sometimes felt far off in recent years, as our growth, our productivity, and family finances fall behind. But it doesn't have to be that way. The British capacity for inventiveness, enterprise, and old-fashioned hard work has not gone away. So believe me when I say, my optimism for Britain burns brighter than ever. My ambition knows no limits, because I can see the prize on offer if we make the right choices now. Stability is the crucial foundation on which all of our ambitions will be built, the essential precondition for business to invest with confidence and for families to plan for the future. The Liz Truss experiment showed us that any plan for growth without stability leads to ruin. So we will make the choices necessary to secure our public finances and fix the foundations for lasting growth. Stability paired with reform will forge the conditions for businesses to invest and for consumers to spend with confidence. Growth is the challenge, and investment is the solution. Investment in new industries, new technologies, and new infrastructure. Let me put what we are doing into some perspective. If the UK economy had grown at just the average rate of other OECD economies under the Tories, our economy would be £140 billion larger today. That would have provided an extra £58 billion to invest in our public services without raising a single tax rate by a single penny. Revenue to invest in our schools, our hospitals, our police, and all our public services. And that's not the limit of my ambitions, because with growth, we will create jobs that pay enough to raise a family on, for you and your children. Put real money in the pockets of working people, and wealth in all of our communities that flows into vibrant high streets. That is how we'll make Britain the best place to start and grow a business, whatever background you come from, wherever you grew up. Things built to last and exported around the world are made here in Britain. This is how we'll achieve what we promised, the 5 missions that will comprise a decade of national renewal. That is the Britain that we are building. That is the Britain that I believe in. During the election campaign, I visited businesses all over Britain, from historic brands seizing the opportunities of the future, to innovative startups at the cutting edge, to high street businesses breathing new life into their communities. Our world-leading universities, creative industries, life sciences, tech companies, and professional services. I see immense potential wherever I go. But for every success story, there is potential held back. Entrepreneurs struggling to access finance. High street businesses punished by our outdated system of business rates. Builders frustrated by a planning system which hands power to the blockers. Exporters tied up in red tape by a failed Brexit deal. Too many people out of work through chronic illness waiting for treatment, or without the skills, training, and security that they need to build their potential. And a welfare state that does not always incentivize work. Brilliant young people It requires active government, and it requires the contribution of people in every part of Britain, not just a few. Where there are vested interests, outdated practices, or institutional barriers obstructing productive investment, we will confront them head on. Where active government is called for, this government will act. And conference, it is time that the Treasury moved on from just counting the costs of investment to recognising the benefits too. So we are calling time on the ideas of the past, calling time on the days when government stood back, left crucial sectors to fend for themselves and turned a blind eye to where things are made and who makes them. The era of trickle-down, trickle-out economics is over. And so I can announce that next month, alongside our Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, we will publish our plans for a new industrial strategy for Britain. A strategy for driving and shaping long-term growth in our manufacturing and service sectors. A strategy to unlock investment, create jobs and deliver prosperity. A strategy to help break down barriers to regional growth, speed ahead to net zero and clean power by 2030, and build prosperity on strong and secure foundations. Because when I said that this Labour Party is proudly pro-business and proudly pro-worker, I meant it. This mission for investment, for growth, for jobs is why in a few weeks' time, this government will be hosting a major international investment summit, bringing together hundreds of business leaders to send a simple message that after years of instability and uncertainty, Britain is open for business once again. And this mission is why we will reform our pension system, overhaul business rates, give power to our regional mayors and leaders, deliver a plan to get waiting lists down and people back to work, and forge a closer relationship with our neighbours in the European Union while pursuing trade deals to open up new markets too. It's why we launched a new National Wealth Fund to invest in new and growing industries right across Britain. And it is why Angela Rayner and I have wasted no time in ripping out the blockages in our planning system so we can get Britain building again. You know, within 72 hours of taking office, we did more to unblock the planning system than the Conservatives did in 14 years, including an end to the senseless Tory ban on onshore wind. And conference, we won't stop there. Onshore wind to bring down your energy bills, new data centres for good jobs in the industries of the future, and housing for the decent home that every family deserves. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. If you want to start or grow a business, if you want to export overseas, if you want to build in Britain but fear local opposition and delay, if you have felt the quiet desperation of jobs, opportunity and investment slipping away, then be assured your ambitions, your hopes, your future will not be held back any longer. I have promised this hall before that what you will see in your town, in your city, is a sight that we have not seen often enough in our country. Shovels in the ground, cranes in the sky, the sounds and the sights of the future arriving. We will make that a reality. Jobs in the automotive sector of the future in the industrial heartland of the West Midlands. Jobs in life sciences across the Northwest, clean technology across South Yorkshire, a thriving gaming industry in Dundee, and jobs in carbon capture and storage on Teesside, Humberside, and right here on Merseyside too. Wealth created and wealth shared in every part of Britain. That That is the prize. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. And conference, because growth must be built by the many, its proceeds must be felt by the many too. And because of the indignity and insecurity that stems from the broken link between hard work and fair reward, we will deliver on another promise, a new deal for working people, with a ban on exploitative zero-hour contracts, an end to fire and rehire, and a minimum wage which takes into account the real cost of living, so that last we will have a genuine living wage in our country. For dignity, for security, for growth, this Labour government will make work pay. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. Within weeks of entering office, we faced another choice. We could accept the independent pay review body's recommendations and give public sector workers their first above-inflation pay rise in 14 years. Or we could allow further industrial disruption to wreak havoc on our public services. Patients having hospital appointments cancelled. Parents unable to send their children to school. Key workers, the men and the women who kept us safe during the pandemic, forced to pay the price for a crisis that they did not create. The Conservatives gave no guidance to the pay review bodies on affordability, nor did they budget for the recommendations they offered. And the Conservatives will deny that this was a choice that had to be made at all. They will claim that it was a viable strategy to let industrial action continue, to let a crisis in recruitment and retention spiral, and let public services deteriorate yet further. That was not a choice I was willing to make, and it was not a choice that was in the national interest either. So I am proud to stand here as the first Chancellor in 14 years to have delivered a meaningful real pay rise to millions of public sector workers. We made that choice. We made that choice not just because public sector workers needed a pay rise, but because it was the right choice for parents, patients and for the British public, the right choice for recruitment and retention, and it was the right choice for our country. If the Conservative Party, they want to fight about this, if they want to argue that we should have ignored those pay review bodies, that public sector workers should fall further behind the cost of living, that ordinary families should pay the price of industrial action, if the Conservative Party want to fight about who can be trusted to make the right choices for our public services and those who use them, then I say, bring it on. Public services that we can be proud of once again with a Labour government. That is the Britain that we're building, and that is the Britain that I believe in. Let me tell you where I'm coming from. My mum and dad were primary school teachers, and I'm really proud of that. My mum was a special needs teacher at my school, and my dad was a head teacher at a different local primary. I know how hard my mum and dad worked, how dedicated they were, the long hours they put in, my sister Ellie and me playing in our dad's office whilst he worked late. And they had to do that in the face of a Conservative government that in its every action showed that it didn't care much about kids in schools like theirs, ordinary comprehensive schools like the one that I went to, and the kids that I grew up with. My mum and dad lived their values, and they taught me the value of public service, of hard work, of giving something back to your community. I joined this party because of 3 words spoken in a conference hall in Blackpool 28 years ago. Education, education, education. I joined this party because I believe that strong public services are the backbone of any decent society. Because I believe that people should rise and fall on their own merit, not on the circumstances of their birth. And because I believe that we do not have to choose between a fair society and a strong economy. I don't want kids to succeed against all odds. I want them to succeed because they deserve it. Because the odds aren't stacked against them. That's the Britain that I want to live in. Just like every other parent who wants the best for their kids. So I will judge my time in office a success if I know that at the end of it, there are working class kids from ordinary backgrounds who lead richer lives, their horizons expanded and able to achieve and thrive in Britain today. That starts by taking the first steps on delivering another manifesto commitment. Our promise, led by our Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, to introduce free breakfast clubs in every primary school across England. Today, I can announce that will start in hundreds of schools for primary school-age pupils from this April ahead of the national rollout. An investment in our young people, an investment in reducing child poverty, an investment in our economy. And an investment so that in years to come, we can proudly say that we left behind a Britain where the next generation has a chance to do better than those who came before it. Conference, that is the Britain that we're building. That is the Britain that I believe in. The work of change is only just beginning, and the stakes are high. Trust is a fragile thing. We've seen the consequences when mainstream politics comes up short. It falls to us to show that politics can be a force for positive change. Not through words, but through action. Through progress towards that Britain of opportunity, fairness, and enterprise. That is our task. That is my task. It comes with a great weight of responsibility. I embrace it. It will mean hard work. I am ready for it. The British people put their trust in us, and we will repay it. And when someone asks you, does this government represent me? When they ask, whose side are they on? You can tell them. When you work hard, Labour will make sure you get your fair reward. When barriers obstruct opportunity and investment is constricted, Labour will tear down those barriers. When working people have paid the price for the Tory chaos whilst waste spirals and taxes are avoided, Labour will act. And when the national interest demands hard choices, Labour will not duck them. We will make fair choices. For decent public services and the people who rely on them. For investment and opportunity in every part of Britain. For an end to the naysaying, the division, the defeatism. An end to the low investment that feeds decline. And an end to the easy answers, the empty promises and the Tory stagnation. Conference, you can tell them that we stand, that we will always stand with working people. We changed our party, now let us change our country. This is our moment, our chance to show that politics can make a difference, that Britain's best days lie ahead, that our families, our communities, our country need not look on while the future is built somewhere else, that we can and we will make our own future here. A Britain trading, competing and leading in a changed world. A Britain founded on the talent and the efforts of working people. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain I believe in. Together, let's go and build it. Thank you. Thank you.